So today marks an amazing milestone, 175 years as a congregation of people committed to worshiping and serving God and this community. You can read all about the rich history, talk to the old-timers, check out the history display, marvel at the display of wedding and baptism garments and photos, and if you wanted to, you could research the internet to learn more about those early years. Perhaps you're celebrating here today because your ancestors had a part in the growth and continuation of Emory Church through the years. Perhaps you're the first of your family to be here at Emory. Whatever your connection, we hope you feel at home. We have several speakers today to provide insight and perspective about Emory Church. Throughout each portion, I invite you to listen for the sense of belonging, the feeling of community, the desires for serving, and through it all, the love of Jesus. Our first to speak is Jamie Greer.
It's good. Good morning, everyone. I have been coming to Emory Church since I was 3 years old. And to be honest with you, I can't remember a time in my life when Emory wasn't a major part of it. My early memories are coming up this left side pew to the third row after service to get a sweet treat from the Candy Man. And I hear laughter because that means that you know who I'm talking about. A lot of you will remember Mr. Elmer McDormand. Mr. Elmer and his wife, Miss Nancy, became my adopted grandparents. No, we weren't related, but I got tired of trying to explain to people the bond we shared, so I just got to calling them my grandparents. They picked me up from school if I was sick. They took me to musicals. They taught my Sunday school class for many years. And they constantly challenged me to be a better person. I would have never found them if it hadn't been for Emory. My early memories morph into lock-ins as a youth group member, spending many, many Sundays with Miss Jeannie, baking cookies as mission projects, and everything in between. I certainly can't forget about some of our epic trips we took to Ocean City for the Rock Youth Retreat. My mom might have run through a toll booth without even realizing, and we never let her live it down. So many of my most pivotal life moments have happened in this sanctuary. I was confirmed here. I was challenged to give a sermon here. I thought I would pass out standing up there at the pulpit. I was married here. My son and my nephew were baptized here. And some of my most favorite people have also been buried here. I've spent a lot of time over the last few weeks thinking about what Emory means to me and what I wanted to say today. And I kept coming back to a comment my husband, Eric, made to me when we were still dating and had just moved back to Maryland. For those that don't know, I left after high school for college, and I was out of Maryland for 10 years. During that time, I never found a true church home in any of the other states. And even though I tried, I just never felt like any place was my missing puzzle piece like Emory. What Eric said to me that day when I was trying to explain Emory to him was, it's not the place you love as much as it's the people. Now, the people have changed. And when I look out over the sanctuary, I picture some faces that I miss terribly that used to sit in these pews. But Eric was right. It's the people. And whether you are new here or have been here your entire life, I'm so thankful that you've been a piece of my Emory family.
And yes, Jamie grew up here, and we would kid her early and say, you know, Jamie, we are training you to take our place. And so Jamie now is a pivotal part of all of our children's ministries, so thank you, Jamie. I have a couple letters, notes to read from people who couldn't be here, and so the first note is from Reverend Tom Starnes. Lightning struck the church on Saturday night. Here I was, brand new to Methodism, 29 years old, 2 toddlers and a newborn baby, preaching at 3 churches every Sunday morning. When I got to the church that night, people had gathered to watch it burn. Much of the talk was about the fact that the only part of the building that remained standing was the chancel wall with the big painted portrait of Jesus rising literally out of the ashes. The next morning, we gathered at the Grove, our normal Sunday evening outdoor summer location, and held our service, but also committed to each other to rebuilding Emory. I'm thrilled that you asked me to write this note. I would love to have been there with you all in person, and I will be there sometime soon to keep an eye on you. My wife, Wave, and I have plots in the Emory Cemetery. Wave is there waiting for me now. It's no real surprise that I chose Emory as my final resting place. Preachers do have favorite churches. Just saying. Just saying. Those Sunday mornings in the 1960s, I always looked forward to coming to Emory. The congregation seemed to like each other. There were no fights. For example, when the church burned down, there was no vote. We were going to build. There was no difference of opinion in that. I'm writing this at the age of 92. Most of those folks for whom I was their preacher are gone. Back then, we knew we needed a new building and a bigger building. Now you may have more building than you're using. That handful of farmers, mostly, they would spare no expense to make that new Emory better than the old. As a matter of fact, as the building got started, the plan was for a brick and block structure. But Alvin Boyd, of the famous Boyd store, said he would pay to make the building the beautiful stone church that you all have today. I guess the question is, what can you all learn from those old folks way back then? The teamwork and dedication that seeps out from these walls, what kind of an inspiration is that to you today? Once again, thank you so much for including me in this wonderful celebration of Emory Church. And thank you for carrying on the work of God. God bless. Tom Starnes. Our next speaker to come forward is Tami Wiggins.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. I was asked to speak briefly, very briefly, today about my experiences here at Emory Church. I started attending Emory about a year and a half ago. My son Hunter and his wife Monica had been attending for some time and had asked one week if I would like to come along. Being the supportive mother that I am, I thought that it was important that they were trying to find a church home to raise their soon-to-be family in, and they had brought their friends, Chris and Allie. Chris is also like my son, so I came along. I wanted to be the supportive mother and, encourage them to continue trying to find a church that they were happy with. When I came, other than the people with the last name of Wiggins, I really only recognized 2 faces in the congregation, and they were people that I knew from my work life. I started attending regularly, and the one thing I noticed immediately was how everyone in the congregation was nice to us. I helped with the first fall festival. I was introduced to Susan. I'm not going to say last names because I'm not good at last names. But she was just so nice and so welcoming, and I just felt like I belonged, helping her at fall festival. She was so kind, and at the end of the day, I just felt like we were fast friends. At Christmas, when you all do your Christmas card exchange, I was touched by how so many people wrote personal notes in my Christmas card, welcoming me to the church, saying how happy they were that we were here. And that was very touching. We went to a new members class, and I met Miss Jackie. She was so supportive with everything. We were trying to be smart and act like we knew what we were doing, and she was so welcoming to all of us in the class. It just felt like we belonged. Everyone that I have met here in the year and a half that I've been here has been genuinely caring and kind. I've attended other churches, and I see no cliques here at Emory. You could walk up to anyone here, have a conversation, tell them about your worst day, and I feel like whatever response you got from them is truly genuine. I had not ever felt that or experienced that at any of the other churches that I had attended. When I started coming to Emory, I had no idea how much my life was going to change in the next 18 months. We found out that Hunter and Monica were pregnant with my grandson, baby Chase. I had the opportunity to retire from my job of 30 years earlier than I thought I was going to be able to, which was exciting but also very scary. That had kind of become my identity over the years, and there were just so many life changes that I didn't know were going to happen when I first joined here. But it was here that I found the support from everyone that I talked to. I was absolutely ensured that being a grandparent was the best thing in the world, and I was not going to care 1 minute about work any longer. I was also told that my strengths in my career could carry over somewhere else in life, and it wasn't probably 30 days after I retired before Emory found a place for me to utilize some of those skills. So I thank you for that. It's given me a purpose in my retirement. But the love and support that I've seen you provide to me, to Hunter, Monica, Chris, Allie, in the amount of time that we have been here has just been so touching. And I swear that the first time after Chase was born, we brought him to church, Nancy was more excited than I was. It's just a family here, and that is the feeling I have felt since the day that I've walked through the door. Everyone here is kind, genuine, and caring. The missions that you provide to the people reach greatly, and they do things that are very important to me in my life, so I feel like that's a part of me as well. Family is very important here. I've been at churches where children are kind of banished to another portion of the church. Here, the children are welcome. In fact, children's church is probably one of my favorite parts of the sermon. Not the only favorite part, right, but one of the favorite parts of the sermon. So originally when I came to church here, I thought I was coming to support my young family and their friends. But I guess the joke was on me. I think God knew what I needed when I didn't know what I needed myself, and he gave me this place as my new home and my new family. So I thank you so much for welcoming me and my family into your family. Thank you.
I don't think it was 30 days before we said, hey, how about, would you like to do such and such? And when I asked Tami to speak, I said, okay, so I'm going to ask you to do something, and my mother says, you can't say no. And so, yeah, there's power. There's power from Miss Mary Ann up there to get people to do things. So I do have a second note, and this is from Reverend Paul Benjamin, and Pastor Paul, as we called him. He served here for 10 years, and so this is his note. We celebrate with Thanksgiving the 175th anniversary of Emory Church. This church has been a special part of the Street, Maryland community. Its 32-member choir was once described as the best-kept secret of North Hartford. We enjoyed being part of its ministry for over a decade. We pray for Pastor Ryan and the members of this faith community to continue to be a blessing. May the Lord bless you all. Dr. Paul Benjamin. Our next speaker is Steve Williams. There you are, Steve.
I got asked to speak today because I'm the old guy. You know, really. Most people think I've been attending church here for the entire 175 years of its existence. Actually, it's only been 61 years, but that's a long time. Peggy, my wife, and I began attending here in 1963 when I came to North Hartford High School as a first-year teacher. Well, that's a long time ago, and there's so many memories I have of that period of time. But I think one of the most dramatic is a year in 1972, whenever I was asked to serve on a county or a neighborhood committee called the Street Ecumenical Committee for Social Concerns. That's really what it was called. And it was a movement that Lyndon Johnson had nationwide where we were to get out in the community and make it a better place. Well, one of the things that committee did was to, as it was trying to make it a better community, was to start the Children's Center of North Hartford. And I'm proud to say that I was a good part of that movement. Those of you who don't know, the Children's Center of North Hartford is a nursery school and daycare center that has existed here since 1972. And, you know, when you think about what you can do for the world, you can change lives. If you can change lives, then that's pretty important. And that's what the Children's Center of North Hartford has done. It has touched so many lives in this community. When you figure that there's about 50 kids at a time that go there over the time since 1972, how many lives that school has touched. So I would say that that's the most important thing that I've done, and other than marry my lovely wife. And so, you know, that's it for today.
So yes, Steve, we did need somebody who had a longer historical perspective of being around the church. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for doing that. So I would like for us to end with you picturing a bridge. We're standing in the middle of that bridge today. At one end, we can see the rich past of Emory Church. Here in the middle, we can see there's a vitality to the life of the church now. And at the far end of the bridge, we see there's hope for the future Emory. We recently worked to create a vision of what we hope for Emory, how we want to be seen in our community. And we established 3 purposes: to worship God, to love people, and to serve others. You may say, that doesn't sound like anything new. And it's not, but it is. Emory has served people in our local community and the larger global community for years, 175. Emory has the passion for each of those purposes mentioned and is willing to dig into the work to make it fresh and new and be around for many years to come. We have leaders willing to empower people to take the reins to try new things, develop new ministries, provide support to hurting people while maintaining that Emory feel. As you listen to our speakers, did you hear those concepts of belonging, of community, and service? Did you take note of how Jesus is in it all? Jesus is the center of Emory. Jesus is in the bridge in many ways. So for the committee that will be planning the 200th anniversary of Emory Church, we know you will have lots to report. Those here today will take part of the continuing work, worship, and service. We look forward to hearing about the Emory of the future.